London is a massive, bustling city with over 8.5 million people residing inside the city limits as of 2014. London is also an amazingly diverse city with over 300 languages spoken and 50 non-Indigenous ethnic communities with a population of 10,000 or more residing in the city. In this video, I will discuss how globalization and the migration patterns of different ethnic communities that have settled in London over the years have affected the culinary and food scene throughout the city.
British food has gotten a bad rap. A lot of people call our grub bland, boring, uninspired, overcooked, beige, boiled, revolting. A lot of that reputation came about during World War II when the whole country was put under rationing and we had very little variety. By the way, thanks for coming, America. You were a couple of years late, but we won't hold it against you. The reality is that Britain has a great number of tasty, nay scrumptious dishes.
Here's a brief overview of some of the major regions from which people have emigrated to London, bringing their culinary traditions with them. First is the Eastern African countries, where large populations from countries like Ethiopia, Somalia, and Kenya have emigrated from. Next is the Middle East, with countries such as Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Iran, and Iraq. Next is India, where people have migrated from many different regions within the country, bringing local culinary influences. Many migrate also from Southeast Asia, from countries such as Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Laos. Next is China, a very large country that has major regional variations from coastal regions to inland areas. Japan, a country which many students study and live in the UK, many of which decide to stay over the years. Across the Pacific Ocean to Peru, where people have emigrated to the UK and subsequently opened Peruvian and South American-inspired restaurants in London. On the East Coast, Brazil is another country with regional variations. Up to Central America and the Caribbean, one can find numerous Latin American-inspired restaurants around London. Finally, we arrive at mainland Europe, where many people from countries such as Spain, France, and Italy have migrated to the UK. And that's it. Now we're back in London. Now that we have a geographical perspective, let's see a few different examples of food and cooking in some of these countries from the perspective of the people living there. In this section, we see a few examples of local cooking techniques in regions such as Eastern Africa, in countries like Kenya and Ethiopia, in Southeast Asia, in countries like Thailand and Vietnam. Native influence is not only relevant in terms of food and cooking, we also see the native influence extend to shopping and local markets, as visualized here from a market in Nairobi, Kenya. The ingredients sold in these markets are generally mostly local ingredients, as many people in these areas cannot afford many import ingredients, so the dishes that result often utilize and are based around local ingredients, a pattern which followed to London and its markets and the local ethnic communities. Here we see a popular Thai dessert, one that can be found in Thai-influenced areas of London. This dessert involves pouring cream on a very cold griddle and adding ingredients, then scraping off the instantly frozen ice cream into rolls. Returning to London, we can see extremely similar food and market patterns in the different markets and restaurants throughout London. Here we see numerous different markets such as Borough, Brixton, and Spitalfields markets, all of which have a very unique individual character about them, with people making food and selling ingredients in the same way they did in the countries they immigrated from. This influence isn't just present in local markets and street food vendors, it has also influenced sit-down restaurants and fine dining establishments throughout London. This is an example of a very popular Brazilian restaurant in Brixton, where I tried the very hearty national dish of Brazil. Here we see international influence in one of London's many Michelin-starred restaurants. Many of these restaurants often attempt a hybrid by utilizing internationally inspired recipes with local, fresh ingredients. The menus and dishes offered by these restaurants often change as the seasons change, as supplies of local fresh ingredients often diminish or increase as the year goes on. Many of these restaurants often actively seek out chefs who are originally from the countries where the food is inspired from, in an attempt to create the most authentic and delicious dishes they possibly can. As we've seen throughout this video, the rapid increase in the diversity of foods over the years as people have emigrated to London has exponentially increased the availability of different types of foods across London, from markets and street food vendors to fine dining and Michelin-starred restaurants. As a result, this has made London a mecca for culinary and dining professionals and companies around the world, subsequently making the city a popular location to host expos and conventions focused around food and drink. In this segment, we see the London Coffee Festival, one of the biggest gatherings of caffeinated coffee professionals, equipment companies, and hobbyists in the world. Here, they all intermingle, showing off their products, trying other companies' products, and learning about the latest industry trends and equipment. There are also numerous demonstrations where professionals and hobbyists alike can learn about numerous different topics, such as how coffee roasting works, how to use an espresso machine, and where different coffee varietals are sourced from, and how the origins affect the final product. The London Coffee Festival is truly an excellent example of how London's status as a global culinary city attracts people and companies all around the world. Coffee in and of itself is a global product, impacting the lives of people in the source countries seen in this video who grow the coffee. Places like Ethiopia, Kenya, Brazil, and Honduras, among others. Overall, London is an amazingly global and diverse city, with people from all around the world impacting the culture and culinary food scene throughout the city as a result of immigration and mixing with the local population. I hope you enjoyed this short look into London's food scene and how globalization and immigration to the city has drastically altered and affected the city's culinary character.